Push a man, put your hand on my thigh. I need chills up and down my spine. Baby, can you get me high? Push a man, put your hand on my.
Hello there, this is Rom Wills, and today I'm going to talk about the curse of the mask. Let me start off with a little story. Back many moons ago, many moons ago, I was a 14-year-old kid. I was hanging out with my grandmother, and we went to see a friend of hers. And we went over to the lady's house, and the lady had, I guess, her granddaughters or something, and then 3 or 4 women, well, little girls actually, girls, 14, teenagers, around my age and everything. And so we all sitting there chilling, and these young girls, they were decidedly unimpressed with me. They weren't paying me any attention, right? And then, just in conversation, or knowing my grandmother with the type of game she had, she probably picked up on some things that said, I'm going to show these little heifers. She casually mentioned that I would be attending this high school in D.C. that, at the time anyway, it was, prestigious to say that you were going there. At the time, I'm not sure what it is now. But she just casually mentioned I would be going to this high school, and it was like a switch went off. These young girls who were pretty much ignoring me all of a sudden perked up and were paying me a lot of attention and were initiating conversation and everything. That was the first time really in my life that I saw how a man's status can affect how women view him. Now, when we talk about the mask, I talk about in my books, I talk a lot about Mr. Goodbar. I've done quite a few videos, but, and I've talked about the nice guy, of course, but in my books, there are actually 4 categories of men. Now, one of the categories that is also select, just like Mr. Goodbar, and in fact, in some instances, may even get more attention than Mr. Goodbar, is the masked man. Now, the thing with the mask, right, is not a facade that a man is putting on. It's not fake. What it is, it's the man's status. It's his occupation. It's, where he might live. It's everything about him, but it doesn't have to do with his character. Basically, when women see him, they see the image that he's presenting. They don't see a man who might be, be very moral or very evil or has a bad character or, a great character. When women see that man, they see his mask, which is his status, where he lives, how much money he's making, and with many women, his credit rating. Some women, they'll get on the internet and try to find out everything about a man. Now, the problem, well, I ain't gonna say it's the mask. When I talk about the curse of the mask, that mask can get a man a long way. Because what'll happen is, a man will figure out early in life, hey, he ain't Mr. Goodbar. He ain't that pretty boy. But somewhere along the line, he figures women will go for status. And they will definitely go for money. So, what does he do? He go out there and get money. He gets some type of status. In some cases, depending on the social class, he might go out there to be the best drug dealer out there. Or he might be that type who will join certain fraternities. Or, get involved in a certain profession. Because anybody can attest to this. Anybody who goes any place where men and women interact. Many men, they don't lead just with a conversation. They lead with their business card. And women actually play into that because many women are taught not to look at a man's character, but rather his occupation. Their mothers will tell them, hey, get you a baller. Or in a higher social class, get you a doctor, get you an attorney, get you that professional guy. So when a woman looks at that man, she's not looking at just him. And he could be the kindest guy in the world, somebody who will love and support her, but she's looking at his occupation. That's the mask. And like I said, that mask will get a man a long way. I mean, let's just face it. In this culture, if you have certain things, a certain status, you want to get certain privileges. One of those privileges is attention from women who otherwise wouldn't pay attention to you. And we've all seen that. We've all seen that. We've all seen that one guy who, women not paying attention to him, and then he throws on a suit or something. All of a sudden, it's like wow. Or that guy that pulls up to the club or wherever pushing that E-class. But the thing is, the women ain't dealing with him. They dealing with the E-class. They're not really dealing with his personality, his issues that he might be dealing with. They're dealing with his profession. So you have a class of men who, they put that mask on. They work. They get that mask on and they do their thing. But there's a curse to that mask. And any man who's worn that mask knows what I'm talking about. One thing, you can't really trust the women you're dealing with because you don't know if they're dealing with you or they dealing with your possessions. Like I've known several guys. I'll give 2 examples. I have a real good friend. In fact, he'll probably watch this video and say, "Oh yeah, you were talking about me." This dude kept 2 cars. A lot of dudes do that. They'll keep that real nice luxury car, and they'll keep that hoopty. And when they meet a new woman, they don't pick up the woman in that luxury car. They'll pick her up in the hoopty just to see where her head is at. And a lot of women actually fail that test. And if she complain or act all funny, turn her nose up, he's like, "Yeah, okay, I got her." And I had another friend who, this dude had a 17-room mansion. I mean, this dude was making money. But he would show up to dates in a pickup truck. And he'd make sure it was nice and beat up, too. See, so, men, they learn that game. And it is a game. You learn to play that game. Now, here's the problem with the mask. And here's the curse of the mask. Say you got that mask on and you actually meet a decent woman. And she's feeling you. She's really feeling the mask. And you know it. But then you can't take that mask off because the mask is more than just the possessions. And it's more than just the money, but it's the attitude that goes with it. It's that elite attitude that nose up in the air, that like I'm high and mighty thing. When you might be naturally a more down-to-earth person. So, what happens? You have that mask on, and the thing about that mask is good for a one-night stand. And it's good for a temporary relationship. But what happens when that woman starts to see past the mask? Because you start dealing with anybody long enough, they're going to see the cracks. You can't keep it up all the time. And, that E-class is nice to ride in, but all of a sudden she'll start thinking about some other things. The curse of the mask is that thing comes off. And then when a woman sees past the mask and she sees who you really are, when it finally hits her, like, hold up. Yeah, all this money is nice. Riding in this nice car is nice. Going on these expensive vacations is nice. But the man underneath that mask is not somebody I want to deal with. And see, women, they are not happy. Let me say that again. They are not happy with what they find underneath the mask. In fact, they get angry. What they'll say is, "You're not the man I thought you were." See, if a woman says that to a man, and it's pretty much no longer his woman. That's when, y'all need to, try to separate ways or whatever. Try to make it amicable at that point. But that's the curse of the mask. And there's actually another curse. And this was a story told to me by one of my college professors, very wise man. And he actually told it to the class. We came into class one day. And he talked about a man who had his face burned horribly in an accident. And the man met somebody who worked in theater, and this theater person crafted a mask for this man to put on. And beforehand, this man wasn't really doing well in life, but once he put on that mask, he was getting everything. Money, a little bit of fame, women, or everything. But then he was starting to see the dark side of that, and the trouble that can come with that, which, I always say it's another video, but there's a downside to drawing a lot of attention, especially from women. all the women out there aren't exactly, sane. Let's just keep it real. There's going to be somebody who's going to want to put sugar in your tank, or going to want to slash your tires, or be standing outside your bedroom window with a 9mm. I've known some guys who got shot. I've known one guy who actually got shot by one of his lovers. So it ain't no joke. And see, anyway, this particular man with the mask, he started finding all the problems with it. So what happened? He went back to the theater guy, and he was like, "Look, I can't take this anymore. Take off this mask." And then when the dude, the theater guy said, "Okay," he took off the mask, and then the theater guy stepped back. He looked at his face, and the guy wanted to know what was wrong. And the theater guy gave the guy a mirror, and the guy looked in the mirror. His face had become the mask. He was no longer who he truly was. He had adopted the mask. And, that's the curse. And I kind of shared that. I was kind of moved to share that. I was actually going to do a video on something else today, but like I said on my last video, I'm going to get deeper. Most people out here, 99% of people, myself included, we're not really at our true self. That's all of us. Every single person. Anybody say they're real, you know what? Unless they've done some real spiritual work. Like I said, I'm going to get deeper. I ain't holding back no more. Unless they did some real spiritual work, they dealing with some type of mask. Because a mask isn't always about possessions. It might be a defense mechanism that you adopted, some in childhood. Some terrible traumatic could have happened in childhood, and you adopted some type of defense mechanism to deal with it, to the point that it becomes a dominant part of your personality, and you haven't been healed of that trauma. That's a mask too. Any defensive reaction, in relationships, it could be avoiding people, or it could be trying to control people, even playing games, or even being attached to people. And that will be a separate video when I talk about counterfeit personas. And we're all working on it. Personally, I would say I don't have a chronic version, but maybe a mild version that I've been really working through. And everybody has it. Everybody has one. I have yet to meet a person who didn't. In fact, if a person say they didn't, they probably do. Because it's just a part of life. Very few people are authentic, but you do have some people who are working through it. So you have to work to take off that mask. Because, your face becomes a mask, and then it just brings you pain. And like I said, I was going to do something else but this morning, I was moved to do it. And like I said, I'm going to get deeper. Sometimes spirit just moves me to say or do whatever, and I just go with it. So I would say if you're watching this and you recognize that you're doing some things, or you leaning on some things that, it's not really you. If you, buying some car, or following the crowd, or trying to obtain some status, when it's not really intrinsic to who you are as a person, then you're voluntarily putting on a mask. Or if you're dealing with some type of defense mechanism going, just everyday life, I would say find a counselor that you can talk to, find an elder you can talk to. If it's severe enough, actually go, see if you can find like a reputable therapist. No joke on that. So that's all I have to say today. And if you look at the theme of most of my work, it's about taking off that mask. So I want everyone to take off that mask. It's painful. Yeah, it's painful, but you can't keep wearing it because that same mask is bringing you pain. The face underneath that mask is not your true self. You're not the true. It's not the true person that God made you to be. If however you choose to worship God, you have to work to be what God created, and that's what society wants you to be. So, anyway, that's it for today. Just think about my message, as I like to say, think on this. So, peace and blessings.
Push 'em man, put your hand on my thigh. I need chills up and down my spine. Baby, can you get me high? Push 'em man, put your hand on my thigh.